Angelic voice her close friends and church members are never going to hear again. This is Ntandoyenkosi Likhona Maphanga, also known as Nino to her friends. Nino was just 20 years old and a promising student with a bright future ahead of her. However, on July 27, 2025, just 6 days after her birthday, all of that changed because a man she once loved and gave her all to took her life away from her just like that. On that day, in an act that still has the community of Phola Park in Katlehong reeling in shock, Nino's ex-boyfriend Zakhele Sibisi allegedly assaulted her and beat her up so brutally. During this, he allegedly sat on top of her chest. He continued to beat her up and then picked up a brick and smashed her head multiple times until he allegedly broke her skull. And then she died. This is the tragic story of Ntandoyenkosi Likhona Maphanga. Welcome to True Crime with myself, Julia. Please note that once again, this is a fresh case. It is still in court and based mostly on allegations. We do these obviously to keep the victim stories in the public in the hopes that one day something will give and something drastic and tangible will be done about the GBV pandemic in our country. So let's get to it. South Africa has seen a huge share of heartbreaking tragedies, but few hit us close to home as the stories that happen in our townships. Today, we travel to Katlehong, east of Johannesburg, a place full of life, culture, and resilience, but also shadows of violence. This is the story of a young woman, Ntandoyenkosi Likhona Maphanga, who is also known as Nino, and the man who changed her life forever, her ex-boyfriend, Zakhele Sibisi. And now, what began as a love story soon turned into a nightmare no one could have predicted. Likhona was described by those who knew her as a bright young woman. They say she was kind and a beautiful woman. They say she had big dreams of building a life filled with hope, laughter, and opportunities. To her friends, she was a sister. To her family, she was the heart of the home. As a girl among boy siblings, she was their heart, and her brothers were very protective of her. And if you have brothers, you also know it's a different kind of love out there. They will go to war for you. All brothers do that for their sisters. It was in Katlehong that Nino crossed paths with Zakhele Sibisi. They dated for a while, and on the surface, Zakhele, also known as Zakes, appeared charming. He was confident, protective, and he seemed to have an affection for Likhona that looked genuine. I scrolled through their social media, and a lot of comments described Zakhele as a quiet person. They said he appeared shy, or he was shy, and he was an introvert. So to outsiders, Zakes and Nino looked like a normal couple navigating the ups and downs of young love. But as time went on, cracks began to show. Behind closed doors, their relationship carried a darker side. Friends noticed that Likhona started withdrawing. They said her once vibrant smile was dimming. Family members also grew concerned. But like many women in toxic relationships, she believed things would get better. And in most instances, Likhona was quiet about what was actually going on, especially to her brothers, who, like I mentioned earlier, would go to war for her. Remember the quiet introverted Zakes that I described earlier? Well, his charm also began to fade as the relationship grew. This was now replaced by jealousy. He was said to be controlling and violent. A lot of cracks began to show in their relationship. Arguments escalated quickly, and Zakhele would allegedly assault Likhona when they had issues or arguments in their relationship. She would break up with him and then her brothers allegedly would confront Zakhele. But soon after things eased down, Zakhele would go back to Likhona to apologize. And because the heart really does want what it wants, he would sweet talk her and promise her that things would get better and that he would basically change. Likhona, still holding on to the hope that he would really change, she would go back to him. But he never really did change. Zakhele would continue laying his hands on Likhona when things were not as he wanted. In one of the incidents described by Likhona's friend, they said that Zakhele allegedly poured his urine on her, and he allegedly strangled her during an argument. But despite this, like many young women in abusive relationships, Likhona stayed. The friend also described that the relationship was marked by manipulation, extortion, and narcissism. Zakhele was allegedly emotionally abusive as well, so after these incidents, he would allegedly tell her that he was physical towards her, or he allegedly beat her because he was angry at her brothers for what they did to him. Things that Likhona had no business in or had nothing to do with, because it's not like she instructed them to beat him up or to do anything to him, because as I said, brothers are brothers. In any case, this was very telling of him as a man, because if her brothers did anything to him, why did he not confront them himself and face them man to man instead of taking out his frustrations or his lack of being a man on her? At some point, she really did feel enough is enough, and she took a stand for herself. She left the relationship after one of the altercations, and she went to the police station to report him and obtain a protection order. She went to Ramokunupi police station in January 2024, so this was last year, and she went to open a case. Apparently her matter was not heard and the case was not opened. Again, earlier this year, she did try. She went to open another case, and this time they did open the case against him of assault after he allegedly assaulted her and left her with a broken lip. He was arrested and released a few days later. He then used this time to manipulate her once again. He claimed that he got a job and he would be in a very good position to take care of her and wanted them back together. On the night of 27 July 2025, everything spiraled beyond repair. This time, in an act of rage, Zakhele allegedly attacked Likhona. He assaulted her multiple times, he hurt her brutally, and during this attack, Zakhele sat on top of Likhona's petite body and hit her. He sat on top of her chest, picked up a brick, and smashed her head multiple times until he allegedly cracked her skull. Likhona died. After the attack, Zakhele, allegedly fearing Likhona's brother's retaliation, he fled to the police station and handed himself over to the police and reported the case. News of Likhona's death spread like wildfire. Zakhele now faces justice in the courts, but no sentence, no judgment can really bring Likhona back. What remains is a community struggling with grief and anger, and a family asking the question no parent should ever have to ask: why her? Why my daughter? Likhona was laid to rest on August 3 at her home, and Zakhele's family were reportedly supportive of Likhona's family during this time. They showed up at Likhona's home, and this is when it was shared that the family had disowned Zakhele because of his violent behavior. He allegedly had attacked another family member and left them disabled. As it stands, with Zakhele handing himself over, submitting a confession for Likhona's death, all eyes are on the court in Katlehong to see how Zakhele will be sentenced. Likhona Ntandoyenkosi Maphanga should still be alive today. She should be with her friends, with her family. Her smile should be lighting up Katlehong. Instead, she becomes yet another statistics and a reminder of the urgency of protecting women and confronting the toxic patterns that destroy lives. As we remember her, we honor her not just for her story, but the countless women whose voices have been silenced. If you or someone you know is trapped in an abusive relationship, please seek help, speak up, and know that you are not alone. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, and let me know what you guys really think should happen as a country. How can we stop this epidemic? Because we do have a problem. And once again, be safe out there, guys. I will see you on the next one.
I love it.